I remember speaking to my mom and she was just like, I can't do nothing because she's a woman and I'm a woman. And women didn't, in my experience, the women didn't have a voice.
Well, let's get started. I would love for you to talk us through your story. Where did it all start for you? What's your background? Where did you grow up?
Okay. So my father actually grew up here in the UK. He came with his dad when they needed workers in I think it was late 60s, 70s. And my father is the only child. So my grandfather thought, okay, I'm going to take my son and I'm going to go to the UK. He took him with him. And he actually went to school, primary school in Birmingham, in Smethick. So he grew up here and he went to, secondary school. And so he's quite educated. My father's very educated.
Mhm.
Within the community, he was the one to go to. Everybody, because he knew how to speak English, he knew how to understand, just receive letters, like extended family wouldn't know how to read a letter if it came through the door and they would need that explained by someone. So my father was the one to go to ask for help or anything like that. So he was a bit of a public figure in the community. And he was very westernized too. He understood the culture, knew how things worked, So there was no like culture shock for him at all. So when he came of age, I think he was about 18, he actually went back to Bangladesh. That's where he was born. And he met my mother actually on the wedding day. So they had an arranged marriage. And back then it was just like you show a photo, yeah, if you like her, if you like him, yeah. And the family obviously has a decision making in that too. With it was all about caste and matching it up and like being low class, middle class, high class. It was all caste based. But my mom was actually a poor woman, but she was so fair in her skin color. And that is a big thing over there. It's like the fairer you are in your skin color, the more appealing you are. You're seen as like a queen, like, wow, you're Bengali, but you're so fair. It's just one of those old traditional things that has just carried on. And my dad was like, yes, I want to get married to her. And they got married. He then left my mum there and came back to the UK, started working. And then he finally brought her over to the UK. They had 8 children together, big family.
Wow.
And I'm the third oldest. And growing up, they coincided in Wales, small little town called Swansea, and it was beautiful. We all were born there. We grew up there, born and bred Welshies, and childhood was really good. I had so many brothers and sisters to bounce off. It was fun. We'd rip each other's hair out, but we also loved each other at the same time. And growing up by the beach was a big thing for us as well. It was like being on holiday every single day. Who wouldn't want to be by the beach, growing up by the beach? It was beautiful. But things did change then slowly when I was about 8 years old. My father decided then, I don't know why, because I always witnessed my father and my mother having a beautiful relationship, very loving. But something changed when he had to go back to Bangladesh because his mother was dying, apparently, which was false pretense. He went over there and he actually got forced into marriage himself, which is
Wow.
weird. Yeah.
Mm.
Which is weird. We don't know how it happened. It was just like bang. It was like one thing to another straight away. And I remember at that time, my mother just gave birth to my little brother and she was devastated. She was like, what is going on? We couldn't understand what was happening. And then for about 2 years or so, my father would go over there for 6 months and then come back to us for 6 months. So he's splitting his time up with 2 families. And I think that's where the rejection for me started because I was daddy's girl. I loved my father so much. We were always together, always play fighting, always going everywhere with him. And I started my puberty then at around that age, and one of our uncles was actually coming to the house all the time, and he was just checking up on us, seeing if we needed anything. We're a big family, and the father's gone, so he used to come and check up on us. Um during those years, it was like didn't have a father there. And I think I was looking for a father figure or love. I was looking for love. And in the community, we wasn't really allowed to mix with anybody else. We had to stay with our own race of people. It was quite racist when we were growing up, but I think that was because of lack of knowledge and lack of mixing with each other and not getting to know each other's cultures. So we always kept ourselves to ourselves. And there was also a pub at the top, corner of our road, and every Friday night our windows would get smashed in. So it was quite of a horrific upbringing to witness that and go through a lot of racism as well. So we kept ourselves to ourselves. And there was this boy that I grew up with since I was young, and the only other place from going from school and being at home was being at mosque. We then had to go to mosque because it came over the family, well, not just the family, the community, as religion started to become this fashionable thing. But beforehand, my mother never used to wear a scarf or anything like that. The background is Muslim. And, now it's like my mum wears a scarf, but back then she never used to wear a scarf. She would wear her beautiful coloured saris and she'd be happy with herself and very confident. But now it's totally different. But as that was happening, I felt the restriction because I was a bit of a rebel,
Mm.
being a middle child, I guess. And I really enjoyed being a social butterfly and talking to other people. And that's what I did. That's why I was like, that was my personality, carefree, talking to everybody. And, in school, you would have clusters of Asian people and clusters of Welsh people, and they never mix. And there's me like jumping from one group to another and, getting to know people. I loved doing that. But with this boy, I thought, okay, I feel that I can connect with him and I feel safe with him because he knew me, we knew each other since we were young. And I started to confide everything in him. And as my father was absent, my uncle then, as I said, he started to abuse me. And I was young. I was very young. And it didn't go further to any sort of sexual intercourse or anything like that, but he was touching me and I didn't like it. And I guess I kind of like found this boyfriend as a bit of a getaway and a bit of peace.
Mm.
So then taking it up to like the age, I was going through puberty as well. So that was all happening. So as you can imagine, that's very stressful as well, going through all the stuff that I'm going through at home and then puberty and then, with this uncle. And it was just getting on top of me. And then when my father was coming back to the UK, there was a lot of domestic violence that started to happen. He started to hit my mom. There was a lot of tension in the house all the time, me witnessing it. All of us were witnessing it, and we really didn't know how to cope. So we all kind of coped in our own ways, but we didn't share it within the siblings. And it was daunting, very, very daunting. So when that was happening, I was obviously started to then kind of bunk off school because I thought, I'm not going to school. I want to go and see this secret boyfriend that I've got. And I would go by the beach, we'd sit by the beach and we'd just talk, and he'd be a really good listener. And then coming home was like, oh, I've got to go home now. And it was horrible. It wasn't nice. My older sister got herself a boyfriend too. I think she was looking for the same thing, and she fell in love. And she was a lot older than me. She was like 3-4 years older than me. And she then felt that it was right for her to tell my father that she wanted to get married because she was at that age anyway that she could choose. And I was thinking, oh, okay, so if you're disclosing that to dad, he's going to know that I've got a secret boyfriend. But I was young. I was only 15. And I thought, I don't want to get married, because I thought she wants to get married. But what if they start saying, we know about your secret boyfriend, so you need to get married? And I thought, are you sure you want to do this? And she was like, yeah, why not? And this secret boyfriend of hers was in the community too, same race, same religion, all that. And my father just got really, really angry. He was mortified with that news. And I remember he beat her up really bad. And I remember sitting by the door, and the door was slightly open, and all I could see was like shadows just flinging over the door when it was a bit ajar, and the cries shocked me. I didn't think that. I knew my father was violent towards my mum, but he never touched us in any way. And that was the day that he did it. And it was frightening. I got really, really scared. And I thought, oh, I've got to ease off from bunking off school. I've got to try and reel it all back. And things then from then started to become into a hurricane. So the storm started brewing slowly and slowly. 2 weeks after that, my sister ran away from home. She thought that was the best choice for her. And I thought, right, go, I didn't know about it, but I thought that was the best choice that she made for herself. After that, the entire community just collapsed on us. Within the community, the best way, and I've used this description before, the best way to describe it is like FBI agents. They all tell each other everything, even if it's fabricated or if it's, they don't care. They will add more stuff onto the fuel onto the fire. And it's because they all have this honor codes going on. And honor codes are basically if they see that girl doing something, if they see that boy doing something, but not so much with the boys. It was always gender based towards women. They will go and tell each other's family, and they see it as like, well, if she's doing that and has got a boyfriend and she's been caught and she's run away, that's going to affect our reputation. And what are people going to say? It became like EastEnders, like the chaos was just like completely crazy. And there's me thinking, so what if she's ran away? What's it got to do with you? That was the attitude I've always had. But the tension then from everybody in the extended family, even if they wasn't family and they were the same race and same religion and everything, just plummeted towards us. It was like all these people started charging at us and our reputation and the family name. And my father, that fueled my father then even more. The domestic violence got worse. The tension in the house was absolutely awful. It was frightening. I was scared all the time. I didn't know what to do. I'd go to school, but I would be like this shell, going to school. I wouldn't talk to anybody. And there's me was this once upon a time social butterfly. And I think all my friends started to know that something bad was happening at home. And then soon after that, my father had a restaurant, so he would go to the restaurant with the extended family. They kept themselves to themselves, and every time we would finish the shift at the restaurant, they would all come back to our house. So they'd all having this meeting like practically every 2 days or something like that. And this was all happening just before the summer holidays. All of it. So my sister ran away around April, May, June, July. This is what was all happening at that time. And when these meetings were going on, because I was directly upstairs, I could hear like raised voices really expressing themselves, but I never knew, I didn't make out what they were actually saying. And I thought, okay, I can guess what it's about. It's about my sister. And as these things were going on, meetings were just carrying on going on. It came up to this just before the summer holidays. And my dad was like, oh, we're going to Bangladesh. And I was like, huh? What? Just randomly. And I was like, oh, okay then. I don't mind. This sounds great, because we never went on holidays. Even though my father had a business, we had a poor background. I mean, there was a lot of kids, but we had to ration our things. We had to share our clothes. We had to, My mom did her absolute best to give us everything that she could, but she was obviously targeted as gender-based, being a female too. So she couldn't really speak out or anything like that because she was getting there was domestic violence going on towards her. But for me, it was like exciting. Like, okay, we're going away. And my mum and dad were like, there's a lot of tension going on in the community. So we're going to just get away for a bit, have a bit of a breather, let everything calm down. And to me, that sounded perfect because I needed that as well. So off I went to this amazing country that my mum and dad always spoke to us about before bedtime and telling us about the extended family and you know, uh, all these people that we have never met. And I went and I thought, wow, coming off that plane and coming into the airport shocked me. I had a culture shock because I was going, what? I could hear the hustle and bustle of the rickshaws. I could hear loads of people out on the streets, just raised voices. And it was exciting, a culture shock, but it was exciting. And then as soon as we come out of the airport, there was a lot of people, beggars. And I was going, oh my God, this is really, really like kind of hitting my heart here. It's like if if my grandfather didn't take my father to the UK, this is where I would be living. So it really humbled me as a young teen. But I really enjoyed the time that I was there throughout the summer holidays. I thought, wow, we're going to the village, we're exploring different ways of transport, like going on a little engine boat, seeing exotic animals. The weather was beautiful all the time, and everything was nice. Even the food tasted nice over there. So I really enjoyed that. But then it was coming up to the end of summer, and we were like, okay, so are we going home now? And my dad was like, no, we spent a lot of money coming here, and I don't even know where they got the money to for like a family of 10 to go over there. And I'm guessing it was all pitched in by the exterior family. Um, and it made sense to me. Like, okay, we've been here for 6 weeks. We're going to stay a bit longer. They have spent a lot of money because the ticket money to go to the other side of the world is not cheap. So carried on doing what I was doing, but it was very, very much so restricted also. Best way I can describe it is that if you've ever watched Aladdin, she's in this beautiful mansion that my father, mum built over the years, and we were in this beautiful place, and I'm not allowed out. I'm restricted. There was a perimeter all around the house, barbed wires all around the house, and I can go right to the rooftop and see all these beautiful sunsets and beautiful views of the place, and I can't go out because I'm a woman. And the only way I was allowed to go out is if I was chaperoned by a male. But that hardly happened anyway. And being a British girl in a developing country was a no-no because people out there do get kidnapped. They get kidnapped, ransom, all that stuff. What we see in TV here in the UK, it's like things like that do happen. And that's the scary part. So I wasn't allowed out, and the depression started to kind of like kick in then for me. I was like getting homesick. It was like 3-4 months in, and I had no one to talk to. My elder brother had to come back because his university was starting. I was the eldest one out of the rest, and I was thinking, I've got no one to talk to. I've got no one to express my feelings. I've left home, so many months ago. I've left my secret boyfriend, my friends, my entire world is over there. It's not here. And then the homesickness just really started to get to me. And I was asking my father, like, constant, when are we going home? But how come, the elder brother can come back home, but we can't, what's going on? I wanted to go with my brother. I wanted to go back home. And I was in my final year of school as well. So that was very important to me, would have been starting to revise and everything for my GCSEs. But no, they weren't having it. It was like, no, we're staying here. And time will tell when that will happen, when we'll know when we're going to go home. It was coming up to about November time. And like my father was doing here, he was spending a lot of time, in the house. He was spending half of the week in the house and then half of the week in the village. Obviously, he was seeing his other wife, and he was splitting his time like that. And whenever he would come back to the town, it was like brief. He'd always be doing something. He was that man of like a appointed man, like he was here in the UK, where the community looked up to him. He had the same reputation over there. So he was flutting around doing whatever he wants. But then he came back, and I remember that we were all having food. It was in the evening. We were watching TV, just eating around the table, like we did every single evening. And my father comes back, and then he just sat down so casually. It's like this is like so fresh in my brain. It's like so casually, he just sits down with his elbow like this on the table, and then he's just looking at us, looking at all of his children, and then looking at me, and then he's like, "Oh, wouldn't it be good if we got you married?" And I was like, "What?" And I remember my jaw dropped, and I was like, "Aha, this is why we're here." And it was like someone just put me in the middle of a hurricane. Everything just collapsed on me. I didn't know how to absorb that information. I didn't know how to. All I felt was rejection. My body was just like raging, rejection. Like, no, 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 no. I don't want this. No, 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 no. I'm only 15, And I started to go a bit crazy and lose my head. And I was shouting at my mom. I was shouting at my dad. I was shouting at everybody. I ran into my room, started throwing things around, and I got so angry. It's like I felt it to my core. It's like my heart broke. And it was the kind of heartbreak where you're gasping for air. And that makes me teary even now. That feeling of like your whole body just shattering. I'm even getting teary now. And it was horrible because I felt that as a betrayal. It was betrayal. They more or less human trafficked me on false pretense, took me over to a country that I know nothing about, kept me there under false pretense of like, oh yeah, we're just staying here till the time, we can go home. But they were planning all along this engagement and marriage. My father, not my mom, my father, and my extended uncles and everything. And I was just numb. I became numb. I didn't know. Depression was killing me anyway. And then I just became numb. I became a zombie. I was just like, okay. I did rage. I did shout out. I did try to tell like the males, my cousins, the male cousins, like, please, can you talk to dad? Please talk him out of it. Please, do this. I don't want this. I'm only a baby myself. I don't want to get married. It's just, who thinks about marriage at the age of 15? No one. I don't even know who I am yet. And then I remember speaking to my mom, and she was just like, I can't do nothing because she's a woman and I'm a woman. And women didn't, in my experience, the women didn't have a voice. So it wasn't long after that. I remember there was a meeting happening. It was like a glass extension in front of the house. And there was a man's meeting going on. And I was like, oh, here we go. And my mom knew exactly what was happening. I was going to the kitchen, from my bedroom to the kitchen to get some water. And my mom, it's directly faced out to the living room as well. And we had a stained glass window there was curtain covering it as well. And behind that curtain was them like having an interview. It looked like an interview because they were all like chatting and, doing whatever they wanted to do. And my mum just whispered, she goes, Rubie, come here. And I was like, what? And she goes, look through there. And I was going, okay, what am I looking at? All I can see is loads of men. She goes, she pointed out, she goes, that's the guy you're going to get married to. And I was going, oh, okay. Like, how am I supposed to respond? And I did see tears in my mum's eyes. I didn't know how to respond because I knew if it wasn't him, it'd be somebody else. If it wasn't that somebody else, it'd be somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And it would just go on and on and on and on. Because all of the time we were in Bangladesh, this is what my father was doing. As he was going to the villages, he was looking for a suitor for me. And he made sure that he ticked all the boxes to the point from he has to look young, he has to know some English to talk to Ruby, he has to not live so far from where we live in Bangladesh. So then, my family are close by. He has to have connections to the UK, which they did. And it was like, wow, it was like as if they were doing all this behind my back. And I saw that as massively. I think that's why I lost my love for my father.
Mm.
And I was daddy's girl. So the love I had for him was immense. But then knowing that he was doing that really, really broke me even more. I mean, how can you get broken when you're already broken? I just started to fall into pieces of ash at that time. But soon after that, the engagement happened. I was sitting in my bedroom. I was wearing one of my mum's saris, one of her favorite saris that she put on me. And I could feel the tension from her. She didn't want this either. They put gold on me. Everyone outside that door of my bedroom was having a whale of a time. They were celebrating. I could smell the food that was being cooked. Everyone's just running around. And there's me sitting there thinking, oh, I wish I was dead. I wish I was dead because I don't want to go through this. I remember the groom's sister coming into the bedroom, and I had my veil down over, and I was just caved into my own little world, and I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to look at anybody. It was just like this. And she was sitting next to me, and she was holding my chin, and she was like, oh, she's pretty. She might not know how to speak proper Bengali, but at least she can walk and talk, and, she talk English, and she's educated. And I felt like, God, it's like a cattle market. Like, the fittest one, some more suitable one, yeah, we'll have her. And that kind of like demoralized me as a woman. Like, is that all I'm here for? Is my body parts, and I'm educated, and I've got a red passport. Well, back then it was red UK passport, And it got difficult then because that's when I didn't want to start. I stopped speaking to people. I didn't want to speak to anybody. I just hated everyone around me. I stopped speaking to my siblings. I just caved in completely. I was in my hell pit, and I didn't know how to get out of it. But I had this uncle that lived with us. He was young in age. It was my dad's cousin, and he lived with us because whenever my father was away, he would be the one to go to. Like, if I wanted anything from the shops, I'd be like, here, take some money, go and get me this, please, from the shop. And he would go and get it because women are not allowed out. So me and him got kind of close, and we used to talk about stuff. He used to make me laugh because he knew what was happening, and he used to like always come out with these jokes and make me laugh and just try to lift my spirits. And because he knew the engagement happened, because he was there, and he kind of like planned in his own head that he would give me the pill, the contraception pill. And I was like, well, what's this? And he's like, don't tell anybody. Don't show it to anybody. But once you finish taking it, I will get you the next one, and I'll secretly give it to you whenever you come to your mum's house. And I was like, okay. And the marriage happened soon after that. So he prepared me in a way, the best way that he could prepare me. On the wedding, before the wedding day, sorry, the night before the wedding, the house was just filling up with loads of people. It was like a hotel, sardine hotel. Everybody was like sleeping next to each other on the floor. Everybody was talking, chatting away in good spirits. And I was just like, even though the house was full of people and laughing and the energy was so high, I just felt like I'm the only one here and nobody can see me, that no one can hear me. And I just kept myself to myself in the corner of my bedroom. I didn't allow anyone into my bedroom. And that was that's all I could do, was just like look out of the barred window that was in my room and just stare out and just think, this is it for me. I don't know how to escape. We didn't have a phone in the house. I didn't know the police number. I didn't know anything over there. And I knew, but what I did know is that from what my uncle has told me, that if I refuse on the wedding day to get married and I show my family up and disgrace them, he said things like he's witnessed himself that they would take you into a remote location, they would tie you up, they would beat you, they won't feed you for days, all these horrific things that he's witnessed before. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how much more of a hellhole can I fall through? And it scared me, and I thought, okay, Ruby, you need to think of something. You need to do something. You're not going to get out of here. And the only best way that what I could do that was in my power was comply.
Mm.
Do what they say. Do what they say. Try to please everybody with all their 101 dictations and go through it. You're already depressed and a zombie. Just go through it, and your way home is through this next phase. And on the wedding day, I remember everybody was getting dressed up, and then the makeup people came and they started doing my face and they were doing my hair and dressing me up. And we actually did have a video recording of the entire wedding, and you can see from start to finish, I'm just crying, 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 crying. And on the night before as well, you have it's called Mendi. It's where they paint your hands with Mendi and decorate your body and everything. And you sit down and the whole family just gives you Indian sweets to eat. And the reason why they do that is to sweeten your marriage. So you eat Indian sweets, sweeten the marriage, it's like a blessing. And so as I was crying throughout the whole day, I remember it came to the point where they wanted me to give my consent. I was too busy crying. I was bawling with tears at that time because I was like, I don't want to get married. I'm mumbling English to myself, and and I was scared because had hundreds of people around me, and I had my veil even more down, and I was like, please, I felt like everyone was prodding me. And I was petrified because everyone I can look around, when I look around, it's people I love that's doing this to me. I'm
Mm.
just so hurtful. And I was mumbling and crying, and then they went to the groom. He was in the next room. They got his consent. He said yes, obviously. And then they took me from the bedroom and they took me into the living room. They placed me right next to him. They put my veil. They took half of my veil and they put it over him. So it's like they both veiled together and they're a couple. And I'm just crying and crying and crying. And then at one point I looked up, saw my father, and he had a tear running down his face. And it was like as if that split moment lasted for like 10 minutes because I was looking at him and in my head I was going, please save me. You're my dad. I'm going to get a tear now. You're my dad. You're meant to save me from this. That was tough. because that was probably the last time I felt we had a connection of any sort. And that was hard. But I didn't get anything from him. So I just put my head down and I just started crying even more. Yeah. So when I had that disconnection with my father, I put my head down and I literally just thought, that's it. I'm on my own now. That's it. And I remember my uncle then, it was time for me to go. My uncle then picked me up, like he swept me off my feet, carried me to, because I couldn't walk because of the emotions. And then he carried me to the car. He placed me in the car. The groom came to the other side. And then it was literally a 5-minute drive to his house, which was around the corner. Because my father made sure that, I was close by. And then everyone from like the bride's party went to the groom's party, and we all went there. I was sitting on the bed. It was all like it was like, oh, the wedding bed, it was all decorated and everything. And I had my veil down and I was just crying and I was like, oh my God, I'm in sitting on someone else's bed. Like, and I was swearing and I was saying, it's like my own dialogue was just going crazy. And I was just like swearing a lot in my head. And I was going,
Mm.
oh God, I just want to like burst out of here. I want to burn this place down and all this stuff. And then my brothers, I had time with my immediate family. And they were all just saying, I remember my little brother just saying, be brave, because he knew what was happening. And they all left then. And when they left, my heart sank even more. And I was just like, okay, I know what's coming. But thankfully, I was on my period. So no sexual intercourse happened that night. I don't even want to call it sexual intercourse. It's rape.
Yeah, that's right. How old was this man, Rubie?
So I was 15 and he was 30. I did not know he was 30 until I saw the wedding certificates, the fake wedding certificates, because I was underage.
Yeah.
But they made sure that I stayed in Bangladesh 3 months after the wedding because my 16th birthday was not far, because I got married in the December. I turned 16 in the January and I came home in the April. They made sure it was all planned. Everything was planned. So then when it came to bringing him over to the UK, it would look legit. That's a legit relationship, marriage. And I had time with him and I got to know him. But at that point, when I was sitting on the wedding bed, I didn't know, because he looked very young. He did look very young, very youthful. And I remember him coming next to me, sat next to me, and he was talking to me, but I was exhausted. I was like, being like that, my neck's killing me because the veil's been on me and it's heavy with all the sequences that's on it and all the decorations on the veil. And I just wanted to sleep. And I remember like huddling onto my side of the bed, holding myself tight as I can. And I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. There's this man next to me and I don't know who he is. And I was disgusted with myself too. And I don't know why. I think I felt, you're nothing, Rubes. You're just this meat for him. And I felt disgusted towards myself. And then a couple of days after, when I finished my period, that's when the rape started. And it was every single day. Every single day. And I obviously had to show like, yeah, I'm enjoying this when I'm not. I'm just zombified, no emotion in my face, just laying there, letting him do whatever he needs to do. And whenever he's done, I remember picking myself up, going into the bathroom. And the bathrooms in Bangladesh are more like wet rooms. So I remember blasting the shower on to the fullest, so it's hitting the floor as hard as it can to make more noise. I put the taps on, just run everything as much as I could, and I'd sit in the corner with the water just falling on my body, huddled up like a little child. Because that's what I was, a child.
Mm.
A grown man had his ways with me on a child body. Pedophilia,
Mm.
child abuse. And no matter how long I stood under that shower, sitting under that shower, scrubbing my body, I still felt like nothing was coming off. I felt like my body was just sinful, full of sin and hate and anger. And I started to feed that to myself. And I didn't have no confidence at all, nothing. There was no Rubie left in me. It was gone. I was gone. I was dormant. And whenever he'd had of his ways with me, the place that I would take my mind to disconnect was the beach, was home. Because that was my happy place. And I would just take myself there in my brain. And I had to sever my soul from my body, from my mind, and literally just break everything apart. And I had to do that to myself to survive. So while that was happening for like 2 months, and I was taking the pill as well, secretly, I remember I had this little rucksack. They were only about that big. It was in fashion back then. It was about that big. And I remember there was a little compartment at the bottom, and I put the pills there. And one day I just went to my mum's house because she didn't live far. And I just thought, yeah, I want to go and see my mum. I just want to be with my brothers and sisters and sit in my own bedroom and, just smile and play with my little brothers and sisters. And by the time I came back to his house, there was tension. Oh, the tension was hitting the roof. And I was going, uh-oh, what's going on? But before that, I'm going to take it back a little bit. Before that happened, I did hear whispers of they wanted pitter-patter feet running around. There was mention of babies. And I was going, well, that ain't going to happen because I'm taking the pill. So sod you all. Do you know what I mean? But I was celebrating that in my brain because that was the only thing that I had control. Yeah, that was the only thing I had left, was taking the pill to not get pregnant. But when I walked into that house, I sat in the kitchen and they were making tea and they gave me some tea. And then he came and sat down next to me. Sister came and sat down next to me. The mother and father came and sat down next to me. And I was going, oh, crap, what's going to happen now? And they were all looking at me, staring at me. And I was going, oh, gosh, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? And I was scared. And then they threw the pills. His sister threw the pill on the table and said, this is why she's not getting pregnant. And I was going, uh-oh, I'm blown. My cover's blown. They did call my family around, my mum and dad around, to have this meeting in front of me. And as you can imagine, that would have brought more shame onto my mother and father. Like, they didn't know about that I was taking the pill, and they saw that as disgraceful. I was disgraceful. And, well, my father did, not my mum. And I think my mum was probably rejoicing in her head, like, yay, she did something, that I didn't know about, and she was protecting herself. But, yeah, that's when everything hit the fan, because it was like 2 weeks after that I actually got pregnant. 2-3 weeks. My period stopped, and then I waited another week or 2 weeks after that, and I was going, oh, where's my period? Why is it not coming? Why is it not coming? And then I had to go to the doctors, and they did a test. And as you can imagine, another celebration in the house. Everybody came round, and I'm just sitting there huddling, holding my stomach like, okay, what am I going to do now? You know what, Rubes? When you get home, have an abortion. Okay, that's my plan. Still carry on with the narrative of like, and the dictation of what they're saying for me to do and everything. I carried on with that, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, have your ways. I hate you all, in my brain. I'm just like, fake smiles and all, just playing along this massive charade, which I should get an award for because I fooled them all. And I started to become sick. Slowly, slowly, my health started deteriorating. And I remember we went to the village, me and him and my family went to the village, went to see my nan. Um, she's up in heaven now, but she was my backbone. I loved my nan, but we went to see her, and he was violently sick. And I was like, what's going on there? Maybe he ate something dodgy because I'm the pregnant one. Why is he it's like, what's going on? But I didn't take any note of it, and I just thought, okay. And as my health started to deteriorate soon after that, I lost control of eating, I lost control of drinking, I was bedbound, I couldn't lift my head up from the pillow. I was whizzing in and out of consciousness. Wouldn't know what day it was, what time of the day it was. I was mumbling my words. But just before I got pregnant, my father actually came home back to the UK because he had to get everything ready at home for us to come back. And at that point, we were away for a year. We were out of the UK for a year. So as you can imagine, all the bills were piling up because we did have people staying in our house in the UK, but the bills were piling up. So my dad had stuff to sort out. And as I was on this deathbed of mine, I actually wanted to die. I was going, I don't care if I die. What have I got to live for? Nothing. They've taken everything away from me. They've taken my soul away from me. I don't even know where my soul is. And I'm pregnant from a raped, from rape. Like, what else is to live for? So my mom got very, very frightened. She was doing what she could. She was going around to different hospitals, getting doctors to come to the house to give me medicine, to get me better. Nothing was working, nothing. And for 2 weeks, I was like that. For 2 weeks, I lost so much weight. I was, I'm a slim person anyway, but I lost even more weight. I looked like a bag of bones. I couldn't even go to the toilet because I had nothing in me, and if I did want to go to the toilet, I had to be lifted, taken to the toilet, and then back. And my nan, she was next to me, and I remember her just while I was going in and out of consciousness. I remember her just singing lullabies to me. And that all I could hear in my brain while I was going in and out of consciousness was her voice and lullabies. And she would just like stroke my head, and she gave me a bit of peace. And I remember then the doctor saying, we can't do anything for her because we don't know what's wrong with her. We don't know what to give her. We've tried putting the drip into my arm. It's not working. The needle would shoot back out, because they couldn't find a vein. Everything was just gone from my body. And then my mom made that call then. She thought, okay, I need to call home. So she went next door. Because they had a phone. My uncle that lived with us went with her. My nan, bless her, she stayed by me, and she made that phone call to my father and said she needs to come home, otherwise she's going to die here. We were going to lose her. And for my uncle to hear that made it real for everybody, because my uncle said that your father started crying down the phone. And within a week, the tickets were made for us to come back. At that time, when I don't even know who packed my stuff, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell. It was a blur. Those 3 weeks were a blur. And got to the airport. I was lifted from my bed taken into the van to the airport. And they put all the gold on me again, dressed me up, put all the gold on me. And I was just like so weak. I couldn't even stand up. So my mom was holding me, and then he was trying to hold me and console me. And I was just like, oh, just get off me. And I saw the security, what's it called? The security gate.
Mm.
And I was like, that's heaven. That's the light under the, at the end of the tunnel for me. And I don't know how I got the straight adrenaline started pumping into my body. And I was going, Ruby, walk, walk, walk. It was like Kill Bill, when she's trying to get out of the base and
Yeah,
walk.
yeah.
I was going, Ruby, walk towards that. Once you're through that, you're never coming back to this country again. And I made it through, and I didn't even look back at them. I heard them all crying and everything, and I was just like, I don't care. I'm through. And when I got onto that plane, oh my God, I fell asleep. I fell asleep for the whole 12 hours, and I didn't wake up. I didn't even wake up for food. And as soon as I got back to the UK, getting off that plane and just smelling the British air was like, it gave me life. It was literally like, I can breathe. And the only thing that came to my head was I wanted a pot noodle.
What
I
flavour?
missed home food so much. I was like, chicken and mushroom pot noodle, first thing.
Wow, that's English cuisine right there.
Yeah. And it just, oh my gosh, I walked off the plane and I knew my father was going to pick us up. So I was like, yeah, right, get home, get to Wales. And then next, I see a group of people there just waiting for me. And I was like, who are all these people? It was his extended family. I was like, oh crap. Like, like I would just want to go home to my bed. I just want to get my blanket, put it on me and sleep. I didn't want to be entertaining people, but I had to. So that was another evening of sitting there being a zombie and everyone's talking to me. And obviously they knew English, so they were talking to me in English. And, they were nice people. They didn't know any different. They didn't know what happened. Do you know what I mean? So, I remember his cousins were talking to me in English. They lived in Bedford and they were talking to me and they were like, you're really young. You're really, and I'm like, yeah, I know. But they didn't ask anything more. They couldn't. And they were like, you haven't finished school yet. And I'm like, I know. It's like, and I'm waiting for them to say something out, like an opened question, like, come on, ask me more questions. Come on. Then I could like blurt it out a little bit. Like, this was not my intention to get married. They forced me into it, but no one said nothing. But after that false entertaining them, I got back into my house. I ran to my bedroom, but it didn't feel like home. It's like as if everything was just running past me and I was stuck in the past and everything's moved on. And I sat on my bed and I remember seeing, that's when the £2 coins came out. And there was some money on the side of the bed and I was like, what is that? And I picked up the £2 coin and I asked my brother and I goes, what's this? And he goes, oh, those are the two new pound coins. And I was like, is it novelty or what? And he goes, no, you can actually buy stuff with it. And I was like, oh, cool. Pot noodle it is then. Do you know, and I went to the shop to get a pot noodle with that. But it was like strange, even eating the pot noodle. I was like, nothing feels like me anymore. I don't know. It just brought it all to home when I was at home. And even home didn't feel like home. I just felt like a feather just blowing in the wind and it's got no end place to go. Just keeps blowing and blowing and blowing. And I remember I quickly met up with my secret boyfriend because he only lived at the back street. So through my bedroom window, I could see him coming out of his house, walking across and then going up the road. And then when I went to get that pot noodle, I remember, okay, this can be an excuse to actually see him. And I remember telling him what's happened. And you know what the weirdest thing is? During the time I was in Bangladesh, he got to go to Bangladesh as well because his older brother was getting married. So we were in the same, we were about 20 minutes away from each other while we were in Bangladesh. And I've never said this ever in any other interview before, but I'm going to say it now. My uncle that lived with me, because my elder brother was best friends with my secret boyfriend's elder brother. So as the boys can go out and meet each other, that's what they were doing because they were best buddies. My brother, my elder brother, and his elder brother. So my brother was going to his house, and obviously he took my uncle that lived with me, and I was writing love notes. I was
Oh,
writing love letters,
wow.
and I was secretly giving it to my uncle, and he was passing it on to him, and he was writing me love notes, and we were swapping, and it was all undercover, and it was nice. I've never ever disclosed that before, so
Mm.
you're lucky. But
Wow.
that was nice. It was like hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And home, a bit of home and your
Yeah,
past life and
Yeah.
yeah. And we would literally write every single day. This was before the wedding. Every single day I would write to him and we would pass up because when I did get married, he came back to the UK because he got his brother married. They already went back home to the UK and I was still there. And I'm going to disclose something else as well. I remember my mom, she went out into the town. She went with her brother, chaperone with her brother out to the town. And my uncle secretly got me out of the house. We went next door and I made a phone call because I remember on the love letters, he used to write in his uncle's, my secret boyfriend used to write to me in his uncle's office and they had a phone. And he wrote the phone number down on one of the letters. And my uncle was like, do you want to speak to him? I was like, how are you going to do that? And he said, your mom's going out today. We'll go next door. I goes, no, they're going to kill me. They're going to kill me. You know, this was before the wedding, obviously. And I was like, no, I can't. And he goes, don't worry. I got you back. We'll do this. So when they went on the rickshaw and just went, he was like, quickly come now. And he made out to the neighbors he was making a phone call to somebody. So they let us have a little room, and I quickly called him, and I knew the times of the days that he'd be there because we were writing to each other all the time. And I quickly called him, and he answered the phone,
Oh.
and I was crying down the phone, and I was saying, "I've lost myself. I don't know what to do. Please help me somehow." And he goes, "I don't know how to." He didn't know how to. And he goes, "I don't know how to." And he goes, "Just be brave. Just be brave. You're going to come back and you come back to me." I feel teary
I
because
feel teary listening to this.
if
God.
you guys want to do a film, I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. It is like a
Seriously.
film.
And I still speak to him now to this day.
Oh, that's
So
lovely.
it's nice. He's actually a police officer now because of
Really?
yeah. So I advocate and I'm a public speaker and he's a police officer.
Oh,
Um so when I made that phone call, it was like he didn't know what to do. He was young himself. He didn't know the country, and he was just telling me to be brave. And little memories of flashbacks like that would happen during the marriage, and that's what was keeping me alive. So when I went through that security gate, when I went home, when I did all that, I was like, right, I need to see him. And when I did see him, I said to him, I'm pregnant. And he goes, Ruby, just make the most of it. Make the best of your situation. Because I was pregnant with another man's baby. He didn't know what to do. We both didn't know what to do. We were kids.
Mm.
And he was my best friend too. So we carried on being best friends. Even though wasn't allowed to see him, I would just see him walking because the house then became a prison for me too. I wasn't allowed to go out, wasn't allowed to go back to school, I wasn't allowed to speak to any of my friends because I was a pregnant married woman. And it was even more like I felt like how I was in Bangladesh is how I am in the UK. And wasn't allowed to speak to no one, so I didn't know how to tell people like this has all happened to me. How do I disclose that information when I've got no one that I can trust? And that's when a lot of things hit me because I felt abandoned by my secret boyfriend. I did. And I thought, that's it. I don't want to live no more. Because he was my best friend and I wanted him to have me. and say to me, let's run off into the sunset. And I took pills. I took loads of paracetamols and I tried to kill myself. And I remember just zoning in and out, and I started to vomit. One of my aunties was in my house, and my mom and my aunties ran upstairs and they were like, what have you done, you silly girl? And they were shouting at me. I went into hospital and I was just like, just be dead already, Ruby. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, how much more can I take? I can't take no more. And when they went home and I was there and I had the drip in my arm, and plus I wasn't well anyway from being in Bangladesh. I needed fluids in my body. They needed to monitor me. And so I stayed there for a few days. And I remember this one nurse came to me and she said, you want an abortion, don't you? And I said, I looked at her and I thought, you're an angel. Who are you? First time anyone's asked me what I wanted for a long, long time. She made me feel like I was a human being. And I said, yeah, I want to get rid of this baby. I don't want it. It was from rape. And that's all I said to her. And I don't think she knew how to like take that information, but I couldn't really speak to her more because family was around. But the next morning I had a scan, obviously because I took loads of pills, they needed to check, and I wanted to go for an abortion. But my family didn't know that I said I wanted an abortion. I wanted it to look like as if from the paracetamols it happened. So they did the scan and I saw my baby girl's heart beating and I couldn't do it. I didn't go through it. I thought, whoa, Rubes, what are you doing? This is a life inside you. This is a beating heart. You have no right to take this life away. And as noble as that sounds, I don't know where I got that courage to actually say to myself, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to keep this baby and I'm going to put whatever left of positivity I've got in me to this baby. And I started, sorry, I've got to stop it. There's this fit guy in my cart. You know, as I was saying, the excavating
Is this when you want to go for a fag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good timing.
Oh, wow. I'll ask for his number later on.
Amazing.
Literally like, oh, okay. I'm getting distracted.
Who is he? Is he building something or something?
So my next door neighbours have taken all the fence panels out and they've opened the back fences out. So it's all open. And they've got a van and this guy is just topless.
Oh, yeah. We love that. Sunny weather.
And he's tall, dark, and handsome too. Oh my God, how random is this interview?
Don't worry, we cut this bit out.
Yeah, so I need to stop looking. Anyway, so going back, where was I? So when this nurse actually asked me, do I want an abortion? I said yes. And when I saw the heart beating, I just couldn't do it. I just thought, no. I thought to myself, I don't have a right, no matter how she was made. She's in me. She's a part of me. And I can make the best out of this now. And then during the pregnancy, she was very, very quiet anyway, my baby was. But I just used to read all of the pregnancy books that they used to give you. The hospital used to give you a little package of pregnancy books and I used to read it. And that kept me going. But there was always like a slow growth with my baby and I didn't quite understand. I was going, yeah, she doesn't respond to loud noises. You know, I was tiny anyway, you know, and I had a tiny little bump, but I could still wear my normal clothes. So that's how small I was. And then when it got to like 6-7 months, I started to notice that even more, like not much movement. So they monitored me quite a lot. And then when it came to prepping for the birth, because they need to see if the baby's breech down. They need to see if the baby's engaged. My daughter was breech. So I was like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen now. And during the time that I was pregnant, what was happening with the groom, I'm still going to call him the groom, a lot of things were happening with preparing for his visa. So as I was blooming, they were getting all this paperwork done, ready for him to bring him over through immigration as a spouse of mine. And they were saying that I'm working when I wasn't working. So I've got to like sponsor him to come over and I can look after him. But I wasn't working. So there was all these like fraudulent things going on and weird stuff going on. And there was also letters, airmail letters. Can you remember the airmail letters, the blue ones that you can write in and then just close it up and send it? There was loads of them going on back and forth. And I was like, whatever, you guys do what you need to do. Because I got my baby and this is what I'm focusing on. And I used to have like loads of visions about, and somehow I knew it was going to be a girl. I used to have visions about plaiting her hair, doing her makeup, and she's going to be like a little Ruby. And, I could do everything that my little Ruby, myself, my inner child Ruby, I could do it with her. But then things started to go down for me in that pregnancy. They were like the baby's breech, and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know why this growth was so small, like slow. And I thought to myself, okay, I could feel something traumatic's going to happen. My daughter was 3 weeks pregnant, 3 weeks premature. She was emergency cesarean. She was literally cut half. Her feet were coming out of me. That's how she was literally coming out. And I was at home and I was going, need to get her out, because it was all super fast and trauma again of going into an ambulance, emergency cesarean. I couldn't even sign the consent form. They cut me open. And when they were cutting me open, the incubator was right next to me. The reflection of my stomach was, I'm looking at it.
Oh my God.
And they cut me open and I was going, what?
Whoa.
And I could see them cutting me open. And I was going, I felt like I was going to be sick. And then I'm just staring like in shock. And then I see them pull out this, bundle of joy. And they just showed me her. And she was tiny. She was £3.13. She was like weighing like a bag of sugar.
Wow.
Absolutely tiny. She was jaundiced really bad. She looked undeveloped as well. She was all puffy and they took her straight away from me. And I couldn't bond with her. I was like, why am I losing my baby now? And that was traumatic in the sense like she had to go to special care unit straight away. She was upstairs in the special care unit. And I was like, I just want to hold my baby. And I ended up staying in hospital for like 3 weeks. She was up in special care unit. There were so many doctors coming from like trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And then one day while I was trying to recover, the bed, I was in my bed and there was like 10 doctors that come to the bed and they were like, oh, can we ask you a few questions? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? So I prompted myself up on the bed and I was like, what? Is my baby okay? And they said, we want to ask you some questions. They said, was there anybody sick around you at the time that you were pregnant? And I said, yeah, actually he was. He was quite violently sick. And then I got sick. And they said, well, we've done some tests and it's called CMV. Your baby's got CMV and you contracted CMV from him. Because the only way that you can contract is close bodily fluids. And I was going, oh, brilliant. Another trauma for me. And they were like, we can't tell, your child is disabled and we can't tell what's going to be, what the effects are. Time will tell. I was going, what am I supposed to do with time? I'm only 16 and then I've got a disabled child. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not equipped to do anything. And then that just set me on another snowball down into hell, another layer of hell. And I quickly then was losing myself and becoming more distant from my child. I didn't want to bond with her. I started hating my child, as horrible as that sounds. As a mother, I think it was post-natal depression.
Mm.
And I was like, I can't bond with her. I don't know what to do. I don't want to. But then I knew I had to, because she needed my milk. I came home and I had to feed my child, and I was expressing, so I had to go to the hospital, come back. And I felt like I never had that welcome home, with the baby. I never had that. And it was horrible. Never had anything to celebrate about it. And what's worse is that it affected the next generation. What happened with me affected my child. And it wasn't long after that, while I was home and I brought my baby home finally, when her weight gained, one of my younger brothers started work in a restaurant, and I started to, obviously I would call my brother up and say, yo, could you bring me some food, take away home, and all that kind of stuff. And I sparked up a relationship with this man on the phone who worked there as well, but he had a Birmingham accent. And I eventually ran away with him. I had to leave because I started to hear whispers then. It was like a rerun of what happened the previous year. There was like whispers of me moving to Bedford, where his extended family lived. And I was going, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be a slave and a cook and a cleaner. I'm not doing it. And then it just got too much. And I literally slowly with my next door neighbor, because I could see her whenever she was in the garden, I gave my clothes to her and I said, I need to run away. I did eventually run away. But like I told you from the beginning, the FBI in the community, the FBI agents, they tracked me down in Birmingham. My family came hunting me down. They tracked me down when I was staying in this new boyfriend's house. And they took me home. When they took me home, because they told his parents, they're like, she's a married woman. This child is not his. And the shame that I brought on their family, they were like, take her home now. So I came back to Wales, and then they tried to get me a one-way ticket out to Bangladesh again. And I was like, that's not happening. And then I saw then that everything changed even more. It was like a prison living in that house anyway, but it became more of a prison where they took the lock off my door. They took, like any sort of access to going outside. The locks was on the front doors and everything like that. And I just couldn't have no escapism at all. But one day I saw my friend walking across the road. She was going to the shop because we lived on the main road. And I thought, this is your chance, Rubie. And I ran out of the house. It was unlocked, and I ran out of the house. And I said, you need to help me. And she's like, Rubie, I haven't seen you in ages. What's going on? Nobody would tell us what's happening. We came and knocked on your door. And her family saved me. We basically called the police, but the police didn't come out that night because they didn't know what to do with the information that they gave. And her mother and father have always been within the community. They Welsh people, and they were actually the mayor and the mayoress of Swansea as well. So they were very gelled with the community, and they see me grow from 2 years old and things like that. And I was best friends with their daughter, and they helped me. And the police didn't come out till the next day. So I stayed over at her house, and I said, I'm not going home. Even though I left my baby, I had to leave my baby. I said, I'm not going home because they're going to do something crazy to me. They put me in the car. Her family put me in the car, and then we went outside my family's house, and you could see all my aunties and uncles in the house. The house was full because could see all their cars outside. And the weirdest thing is, the police then came after 6 hours. For 6 hours, they were outside. They didn't know what to do because they've never had a case of honor-based abuse or forced. It wasn't known then. And funny enough, my father knew one of the police officers, and he was like, she's just having a tantrum. She's having a tantrum. She's young. She's having a tantrum. She doesn't know what she wants. And I was like, no, I want to go. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And a lady officer had to chaperone me into the house. I went straight in, saw my relatives give me the daggers, went upstairs. I got one Tesco bag, filled it up with clothes, and I took my baby, and my mom was devastated. She was crying, but I had to do this. And I left. I got on a train. My friend's family paid for it, and I came to Birmingham. But then I wasn't taught what life was about, and I fell into another trap of domestic violence myself. For 5 years, I endured domestic violence, control. I wasn't allowed to leave the house. So from one jail in Bangladesh to another jail in Swansea to another jail in Birmingham. That lasted 5 years, and it was horrific. Horrific. I've even got a scar on my face from the violence. He fractured my arm. He strangled me with a scarf, because I was very religious back then as well. And he strangled me with a scarf, and then used to let it go when I pass out and things like that. And there was one time where he got so angry at me, and I've written this chapter in my book as well, of my anthology book. He was on drugs, heavy drugs, and I think he was having a crazy come down, and he started shouting at me. And I had another baby at that time within that 5 years, his son, and he was like, shut those kids up, shut those kids up. And I was I'm trying to, and I was like very timid and very like, I had no help. My family just told me I had nobody. I just had him in this big city, which I don't know anybody, don't know where to go. It's exactly the same. It was like the repeat chapters. And then he locked me into the kitchen, put the gas knobs on, every single one of them, filled the kitchen with gas, and he beat me so bad. And I could hear my babies crying on the other side of the door. And I was going in and out of consciousness because the gas was getting to me, and I was exhausted because it was kicking me down and everything. And then nature called him. He had to go to the toilet. So he walked out of the kitchen, went into the toilet, and he had a knife in his hand, and he was graving it onto the floor, kitchen floor, saying, "You don't understand me. You don't understand me." And I was going, I do. And I was only 19 at this time. And I was going, I do. Please just go. Can we turn the gas knobs off? Please open the window. And I was just begging him in any way. Okay? I was like, please, the kids are crying. They're crying. And nature called. He went upstairs, and I had those double buggies, where you could put the baby in the front and the back. And I threw my kids in there, and I went to this girl's house that I met a couple of times through my daughter's development groups, because my daughter's got disabilities. And she was another Bengali girl as well. And she told me where she lived, the road. And I literally found the road. I walked on the street, and I was asking people, because where's this road? Because I remember her saying it's not far from where I live. And I went to her, and then I got the perpetrator out of my house. And then I ended up in another 5 years of him stalking me and really bringing me down, and all that crazy enough, court cases after court case. But I got the result that I wanted. He's not allowed to indirectly or directly be around me or the kids. And then I started to build myself up connections with women, and I started to just naturally be a magnet for people to tell me things. And then I would share things. And then we had those Ericsson phones back in the days with the cameras, where we first had cameras, and they would be like, "Oh, you're very photogenic." And I'm like, "Really, am I?" And then as my friends network grew, one of my friends bought me a makeover day to have a photo shoot. And then I started getting my confidence up. Those days where you could go get pampered. Yeah, and it was in the mailbox in Birmingham, and I was like, yeah, I'm going for this. And then my confidence just grew and grew and grew. And then I took myself into my education again. Did my GCSEs when I was 25. Didn't access a computer when I was 26. That's the first time I ever accessed the internet. I'm 41 now. I was the first time I ever accessed the internet, 26 years old. And then I
imagine that blew your mind as well, like going on.
Yeah, I was going, what is this? Like, what do I type? And there's me like,
yeah. I'm still like that now. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I built my confidence, but I was so dysfunctional too, because I kept on attracting relationships that was the same, exactly the same. It came to my 27th birthday, and it was after a really horrible relationship, and I thought, enough is enough now. I need to go back to what Rubie liked when she was 8 years old. What did that Rubie like? And I started to heal my inner child, and I wanted to go traveling. And then I started connecting with my mom again. My mom would come to see me and my sisters and everybody. And I started to live my life. And then I started to really explore who I am. And I went after my GCSEs. I worked my way up from counselling, counselling skills, and then I went into integrative counselling in university. And I didn't complete it, but I learned so much about myself. It's like you've got to teach yourself to heal others. You can't, if you don't heal yourself, you can't heal anybody else. I wouldn't say heal it. You can't aid to heal anybody else, or have the ears to sit there and listen to them and advise them, or whatever you can. If you have not healed yourself, I think that was the main thing for me. And I went through a lot of counseling, like 250 plus hours of counseling.
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot, but I can imagine needed.
Yeah,
you know?
It was needed, absolutely needed. Because when I was in university, I met somebody, and I think he was like, because it was integrative counseling as well, the course I accessed, you need to have counseling too. So they've got to make sure that you have ongoing counseling as well as you learning about the course. And then at the end of the course, whatever, you can then go on to doing what you need. But I pulled out of university, and I continued with my counseling because I knew I wasn't in the right place. I had to fix myself. And I'd been doing that ever since I was 27 till now. I'm still fixing myself. I'm still doing things that I need to get through. I mean, I've just come out of a horrible relationship now, but I'm dealing with it in such a good way, in a healthy way. I knew it was doom and gloom, and I'm out of it, but I'm so proud of myself, of how grown I am, how healthy my brain is. I mean, spirituality has helped me, like, being yoga. I qualified to be a yoga teacher last year. I practice what I preach, and that's when I know it works. And whenever I'm doing an interview, I always say it's that hidden strength, unveil your hidden strength. And the pun is in there as well with the veil. It's like, that's what it's about. Once you unveil all that cloud and that, darkness, and, really open yourself up bare, that's when you know who you are, and you can work yourself through. Like, I work myself through the chakras. That's what I used as my template to work on me. And I share that with everybody and anybody that asks for help. And I've got to say, my children they're not children. They're in their 20s now. And my son's grown. He's so proud of me. And my daughter Shyla is absolutely amazing. She's just like rainbows and butterflies. She can't speak because she's profoundly deaf. She still has, her, disabilities and things like that. But she's like, she's sunshine. She taught me unconditional love. She taught me how to put the bar so high and not to be doing and going for the old narratives anymore, because I had to slowly break out of that myself. And she's been teaching me along the way. And so is my son. And that brings me to today. I love what I do. I love speaking out. I love collaborating with people. Where awareness is vital. Sharing is vital. I put myself out there by showing my face. There's a lot of people that don't show their face, and it's just voice or, newspaper interviews. And I'm like, no, people need to see a human being in front of them, connecting with their eyes, feeling their aura, listening to their voice, the tone of voice, hearing the words. And because that's what we are, we're human beings. We need that interaction. And I feel that's very, very important, is to keep my voice still going. And I will to my last breath, to my absolute last breath. This is my mission in life, because I know my interviews have hit worldwide. I know they've done well in the fact that people around the world are listening, and it's affected them and it's helped them. And That's the currency for me, is that. Like, that's it. That makes me feel 100% happy, knowing that it's affected somebody and it's going to get them help and they're doing something about it. And that's why I say it's that invisible strength that we need, that I need to keep giving to people, where people need to, it's like I learn off the audience as well. The audience helps me and I help them. It's an energy exchange all the time. And I feel that's so important.
It is. And I mean, Rubie, like, thank you to start with for sharing your story, because it is obviously, and being so candid and obviously sharing things that you've never shared before. And it is,
Yeah, the love letters.
yeah. Incredibly, obviously it's a hugely remarkable story, and the fact that you've come to this place you are now, and you are, you know, moving forward and growing all the time. And you mentioned earlier, like, oh, you could make a film out of this, and I was thinking, it's such an extraordinary story. I don't think if you were going to write this as a fictional story, no one would kind of believe it in a way.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's sort of beyond the sort of normal fathoming of the world, and like, and how people react. So obviously I just want to say thank you for sharing that with us. And it's so great to hear that you found that thing, like you found yoga and spirituality as a way of healing. And yeah, tell us a bit about like discovering that, I guess.
So I did yoga when I kicked up the domestic violent relationship out. There was a girl that lived on my street, and there was a community center. My children were very young. They both went to school, and I was like, what do I do in my free time? So there was a yoga class going on, and I thought, and she pulled me and roped me into going, and I felt so good every time I did the class with the yoga teacher. And I was like, oh, this is me time. But then for a long, when the classes stopped a couple of years later, it was always at the back of my mind, yoga, because I remembered how much it gave me peace in my dark days. So I don't know, it's like the universe worked its way out to me and said, right now is a good time for you, Rubie. And not last year, the year before is when I enrolled to be a teacher. And the way that I live my life anyway was very spiritual. You know, I always give and I always take. I always exchange that energy. I always do good deeds. I always help charities out. I always, you know, and I've been doing that since I started when I was an ambassador when I was 31 for another charity here in the UK. I can't mention their names because this is not an interview for them. I am an ambassador for charities. And I always thought that's the way that life should be. It doesn't matter about religion, culture, anything like that. As long as you're a good person inside and you're helping others to step up while you're stepping up and taking people with you, that's what it should be about. And just having a genuine good heart and helping others and it's all the lessons through when I went to Bangladesh. When I saw those homeless people, my heart just sank. And I thought, I'm so humbled to be born in Britain. And along my journey, I've picked up on all these things that have helped me to elevate myself and bring me to the point where there was an opportunity to be a yoga teacher. And I said, yeah, I want to do this. And now I am a yoga teacher. I've got a weekly class. And I did yoga in the park the other day. And that was amazing. It's like people, it's a different way. So I've got an ambassador role and I've got a yoga teacher role, but it's everything combined and it's beautiful. As I'm teaching, as I would be speaking, I'm still teaching and educating. So it's the same thing. But the energy is a lot more higher because I'm doing it from a healing point of view. Not just, I'm a survivor and I'm here to talk and that's it. No, I've got more to me than that. I'm going deeper into my soul to help people to the core. And I come as a package. That's what I do. If people want to have one-on-one, you know, breathing practices or, you know, yoga or just, you know, Reiki, because I'm a Reiki teacher as well, I will help in any way that I can. I mean, that's why I mentioned to you the Brotherhood Legion, because I feel that we all need to come together and we are helping each other. There's not many people that do that. And I think communities need to grow more of a solid foundation. And I've seen a lot where people are just like disengaged from helping each other, and I think that's so wrong. So wrong. We can't, if we're separating each other in organizations and charities, how are we supposed to achieve anything? This is why we need collaborations. This is why we need to get together. This is why we need to help each other in any way that we can. If I know somebody, I will help you. If I can point out another person, I will get you there. And it's vice versa. And I love that energy exchange. And it's not about money. It's not about material things. It's about humanity.
Oh, absolutely. So inspirational. And it's so inspirational that you've used everything that's happened to you to help so many other people and spread your word and your mission. And on that note, if there's people listening that that maybe suspect someone is going through something, or know someone is going through something, or someone listening is going through something themselves, especially people of different cultures, I think that we definitely have this attitude of like, oh, that's their culture, we'll just leave them to it, you know, turning a blind eye. And even the police, and as you said, when it came to your story, the police took so long to actually engage because they kind of didn't really know how to react to that. And I've heard of stories as well, unfortunately, where the police have refused to help because, oh, it's an honor thing, it's not got anything to do with this. Have
It's
you got
education. And I've had many experiences in educating the police as well, which is great. And I love that because I'm helping people in the police force, Home Office. I even got awarded by Baroness Cox in Parliament for my bravery.
Amazing.
I've health sectors, you know, schools. You know, I go into schools and talk as well. So I'm everything that I fell through the loops. I'm helping to build up. I'm not sitting here saying, I hate them, they didn't help me. I'm like, you know what? No one was educated then, not even me. So let's help each other now. Let's come on par. Let's be on the same wavelength, and let's heal together and do something about this problem of honor-based abuse and honor killings and forced marriages and domestic violence and child abuse. Because I've in my toolkit, I've got everything. Absolutely everything under the umbrella of abuse. So, and that's fortunate for me. I see as a positive. If I was to undo or erase anything from my past, I would say nothing. I'm not going to erase nothing from my past. I wouldn't go back and do anything differently. I went through a lot of pain, suffering, yes. But I've got all this expert knowledge, first-hand knowledge that I can share and I can educate. And how beautiful is that, to help someone to understand and help them grow in their growth? Because they will always say, oh, I remember Rubie. She taught me this and she taught me that. Or I saw her video. Or she, you know, she's my yoga teacher and I remember she did this. And we always remember our teachers, always, in some way or another.
Have you got any words of advice for people? Like, are there certain resources or places you can go if you know somebody, or if you're in that position yourself? What would you recommend?
If you are struggling or going through domestic violence or whatever type of abuse it is, or anything like that, there is help out there. Oh my gosh, there is help. First thing to do is confide in someone that you trust. Absolutely. Or if you can't do that and you're restricted with family, doctors are trained. A lot of doctors are trained, nurses are trained, you know. Even if you've got some school, you know, so other parents that you can, you know, just disclose a little something to, and they can then get the help for you. There's loads of charities here in the UK that are doing absolutely amazing work on all different types of abuse. There's help not far away from you. We just don't see it because we don't know. even just doing a quick Google search, but if you're restricted with internet or phone, word of a mouth, just getting someone else on the outside to get you that help, or, they can go and get some advice for you. You're not alone. You're really not. I was put in scenarios that restricted me in every single way.
Mm.
I didn't have internet. I didn't have phone. I didn't know the country. I was in my own home when I couldn't even get out. So in all these scenarios where I was backed into a corner, I still got help. Like I did, I ran to my friend. I saw her and I ran, and I got help that way. It could just be a bypasser and just say, I need help. Help me, please.
Mm.
And there's loads of professionals out there that are willing to help, that have got all the resources to help you through everything. There is always, we always start from where we live. So go to the locals, go to the doctors. If you need to go to the doctors, and just ask them for advice, because they've got referrals as well. That's very important. Schools have got referrals to other charities and organizations. You're not alone. You're not alone. But the first thing is to stand up and walk and get that help and ask for it.
Mm.
Rubie, thank you. Thank you so much for those words as well. I think that, that, like Sophie said, there might well be some people listening that have been affected by this or are going through something similar. So that is really very, very helpful and useful for them. And again, just a huge thank you for being so honest with us. And it means a lot to have you on the podcast and to hear your story. And just thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and getting in touch with me. I really, really enjoyed this interview. And you've got exclusives as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Rubie.